Welcome to the Exam Room Live, brought to you by the Physicians Committee. Hi, I am the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll, and this is the healthiest half hour anywhere online today. Appreciate you joining us right here on Facebook and on YouTube. Coming up, she is big, she is strong, she is vegan. Weightlifter Ramona Cadogan is here to bulk up our knowledge on what it takes to make muscles without eating meat. Ramona, thank you so very much for joining us. Can't wait to dive into your story in just a little bit.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. And Dr. Neal Barnard also here with us today. He's going to be looking at the way that commercials can co-opt your diet and cause calorie chaos. So if you are what you eat, but you eat what you see, and all you see is advertisements for junk food, well, wouldn't that be a problem? Dr. Barnard will be here to discuss. This is a quandary, is it not, Dr. Barnard?
It certainly is, Chuck.
All right. And Dr. Barnard also going to be sticking around to answer your questions. So if there's something on your mind, something you want him to weigh in on, go ahead, post that in the comment section now, or you can tweet that to us using the hashtag ExamRoomLive. But first, let's get caught up on the latest happenings. Here are your health headlines for Wednesday, October 14th. 2020. Coronavirus infections remain on a sharp upward trajectory. 34 states and territories seeing increasing numbers of cases, with more than half reporting record levels recently. Nationwide, there's been a 21% increase in the number of newly infected patients over the last 2 weeks, according to tracking by the New York Times. And with that surge, many hospitals are struggling to find enough beds. But as the pandemic draws on, it does appear that doctors have been better equipped to treat the virus. Mortality rates are falling, though experts say that is not a reason to let your guard down. The current count shows 38.2 million cases globally, with 7.8 million here in the U.S., where more than 215,000 people have died. In nutrition news, no doubt, if you've spent any time in the grocery store recently, you've noticed that the frozen food section is packed with vegan options. Well, it turns out that booming consumer demand for plant-based meals is a key factor in the rapidly growing global frozen food industry. That market is expected to swell to become worth nearly $95 billion within the next 4 years. Market research firm Technavio says as consumers continue to become more aware of the health benefits of a plant-based diet, demand for the products will continue to increase. And finally, you know that saying, out of sight, out of mind? Well, it appears that that is true when it comes to children and junk food. Lawmakers in the UK are considering limiting the number of junk food commercials on TV after a study revealed that doing so would result in the average kid eating about 9 fewer calories per day. Now, that may not sound like much until you look at what the net effect would be, including reducing the rate of overweight children in the UK by 3.5% and the rate of childhood obesity by 4.5%. And what does that add up to? 40,000 fewer obese children and 120,000 fewer children who are overweight in the UK alone. Now, the proposed legislation would restrict commercials for foods and drinks that are high in fat and salt and sugar between the hours of 5:30 in the morning and 9 o'clock at night. I want to bring Dr. Barnard into this conversation to take a little bit of a deeper look at this. And Dr. Barnard, I took those numbers and I crunched them a little bit further. And those 9.1 calories that are saved every day, again, doesn't sound like a lot, but if you add that up over the course of the year, you're talking more than 3,300 calories. And for an adult, that's more than a day and a half's worth. And for children, the effect here would be even bigger.
Well, they would be, and there's much more that can be done. So far, there's been targeting of what's called junk food, and junk food is often thought of as sodas and chips and candy and that sort of thing. And the concern has been about kids, but we should expand this in 2 ways. Number one, kids often get their eating habits from their parents. So if we are marketing to parents heavily, then the kids are going to get affected. So it's good to dial it back, frankly, for everybody. And in a minute, I'm going to show you one way to do that. But the other thing is junk food doesn't just mean soda or candy or chips. I think you could arguably say that meat is a junk food and cheese is a junk food too. And let me show you some images, if I may. There has been so much marketing to youth audiences. This is KFC, and the whole idea is you want to be young and carefree and live it up, and every day is sort of a party. And they also will very often price things really for an adolescent type market or a market of families with kids. So you drive through, you get something, you get out without a big expenditure. And where it becomes really malignant is when the marketing is a toy. Because the child doesn't necessarily care if they're eating something healthy or unhealthy. They want the toy. And that really, I have to say, is something that should be completely suspended. Now, what's better? Go to France. And hopefully when the pandemic is over, you'll actually be able to. But when you turn on French TV, if there is a commercial for some kind of snack food, no matter what it is, in the fine print at the bottom, there will be a health message like exercise more, eat more fruits and vegetables. And then there's a website. And the website is this. It's called Manger, Bouger. In French, that means to eat and to move. And the whole idea is eat better, move more. So let's go to the website. And when you go to the website, what do you see? Spaghetti with fresh tomatoes and basil. Or here's a nice soup made of tomatoes and chickpeas. You'll happen to notice they are vegan. Now, this is not an optional message. Every single food commercial in France that's for any kind of snack food brings you to this website, and by law, they have to have them. So wouldn't it be a wonderful thing if here in America, let's say you can advertise KFC, McDonald's, you name it, you can advertise, but you also have to include in that message an ad for something that brings you to healthier food. So that's what they've been doing in France. And I have to say, I think it's a step forward. Now, here in the United States, we've seen some interesting movement too. This was back in 2009. This is our group. We went to a group of doctors and dietitians. We went to the White House and said, kick out the meat group, have fruits and grains and legumes and vegetables. We don't need the meat group and the dairy group anymore. And the US government didn't listen. So they didn't even respond. So we filed a lawsuit in federal court. And I have to say, about 2 years later, the USDA did then respond, and they released MyPlate. And this is the current federal food guideline. Now, not perfect, but it's remarkably similar to what we had given them. And what you notice is that it has fruits, grains, vegetables, and instead of legumes, they're calling it protein. And what they're saying here is it could be meat, but it doesn't have to be meat. It could be beans, it could be tofu, it could be nuts, it could be any high protein food. It's a step in the right direction. Getting rid of the meat group was a good idea. However, up in the upper right there, you see the dairy group. Now, that's not science, that's politics. The dairy industry in the United States is huge, very politically powerful. So MyPlate has this dairy group in it. Well, let's look a little bit north at our friends in Canada. This is Canada's food guide, and this came out after the US government released MyPlate. And what you see on the left, that's fruits and vegetables. That's half the plate. And in the lower right, that's whole grains. And then you have the protein group there in the upper right, which could be meat, but as you'll see, it's also beans and other things too. They got an egg in there. So it's very much like the US pattern, except, look at that, make water your drink of choice. Wait a minute, where's the dairy group? The dairy group is completely gone. So now, just as in France, the website promoting healthy eating is now part of life. There in Canada, dairy is no longer promoted by the federal government at all. It's considered just an optional part of the diet. So we could do the same thing here. Will we get there? Yeah, I think we will. It's really just a question of time. We see industry weighing in very, very heavily, but it's hard to deny the benefits of a plant-based diet, and I do think we'll get there. So back to you, Chuck.
Let's go back to the fast food real quick, because I think that we're kind of in an interesting situation. We just heard about the popularity of vegan diets a little bit with the frozen foods in the health headlines there, but then you used KFC as one of the examples in your presentation there, and KFC has been experimenting with vegan options as well. How concerned are you that they will skew that message to say that, yeah, this is a vegan option, it's got to be healthier, even though you're still talking about a fried food that is rich in saturated fat?
Well, KFC and every other fast food chain is in business for one reason. They're in business to make money. And so they're trying different markets, and they will try the really unhealthy market. And you've seen this, KFC, Taco Bell, Burger King, everywhere. They sell really unhealthy things, but they realize there are people looking for things that are healthier, things that don't have animal products in them, things that are better for the environment, and they're looking to cater to those things. I have to say, I consider it a real sign of progress that KFC has been starting to look at the vegan market in a good way. Now, those vegan foods, sometimes they're a little bit like, I think of them as like methadone. If you're hooked on meat, then they're going to give you something that tastes a lot like meat, very fatty like meat, fried like a burger, and not the healthiest vegan thing, even if it is vegan, like the Impossible Burger, for example. Those products have a role, and that is they help people to realize they don't actually have to have meat. You can have plant foods, taste pretty good. But you want to get off your methadone at some point too. You want to get off your Impossible Burger toward healthier choices eventually.
All right. Dr. Barnard, stick around. We're going to be opening up the doctor's mailbag. So if there's something that you have that's on your mind, you want Dr. Barnard to answer, go ahead and drop that in the comments section now, or tweet that to us with the hashtag #ExamRoomLive. Dr. Barnard, talk to you again in a little bit.
You bet.
All right. In the documentary, The Game Changers, there is a great quote from Germany's strongest man, Patrick Bomanian. All right. He says, "Someone asked me, how could you get as strong as an ox without eating meat? And I told that person, have you ever seen an ox eat meat?" For the more than 95% of the population of the world who is not vegan, that quote can be straight up perplexing. But for my next guest, it makes all the sense in the world. Why? Because she is strong as an ox and she is vegan. Please welcome weightlifter Ramona Cadogan to the Exam Room Live. Ramona, thank you so very much for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, let's talk about this. Clearly, you are stronger than I am, so let's just get some numbers on the table. I'm scared of you. Like, I'm glad that you're not in person, because if we did an arm wrestling thing, I'm sure that my arm would just come clean off. You are a silver medalist weightlifter here. Is that correct?
Yeah, I won the World Cup, actually as a silver medalist as the World Cup, and I won the Pan Am Games gold medalist last year and the year before last at the Pan Am Games.
Ooh, all right, gold. All right, now I am scared of you. Okay, Ramona, I see you. So how much weight are we talking about lifting here?
Yeah, so my maximum snatch that I've done was 59 kilos. My best clean and jerk is 76 kilos. My best back squat is 120 kilos. My best front squat is 102 kilos. My best deadlift is 138 kilos.
That sounds like a lot. I'm not overly familiar with the metric system. Can you quantify that in pounds for us a little bit?
Yes, definitely. So, in terms of my snatch, so it's about approximately like 100 and close to 120, 15 pounds. The clean and jerk is about close to 160 pounds, close to there. And the back squat is about 260, 265 pounds. And my front squat, my max front squat is about 225 pounds. And my best deadlift is 305 pounds for a single.
All right, 305 pounds. Now, ordinarily, I would not talk with a woman about her weight, but you're talking about 305 pounds, and that to me seems like that is close to three of you that you're lifting. That is incredibly strong.
Thank you.
So here's my question for you. When you first got into weightlifting, were you already eating a plant-based diet?
Yes, I was. I've been a vegan since 2006, and I started weightlifting in 2013.
Okay, so you're already vegan. Did you have any concerns? Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to get as strong as I need to be on that gold medal level without reintroducing meat into your diet?
I had no problems, because I basically did my own studies as a biology, because I have a biology background myself. I'm also an educator and a researcher. And so I always use my own knowledge, and I wanted to do it the healthiest and best way to do it.
Ah, fantastic. So you're ahead of the curve. You were in this long before the Game Changers documentary came out. And that movie obviously exposed a huge audience to the idea of eliminating meat and dairy and still being ultra competitive in your sports competitions. So I'm curious though, when you first began and you're speaking with the other competitors up there who are lifting and you're talking to them about your vegan diet, did they look at you like you had two heads?
Yes, they couldn't believe how you can, you know, not have meat and still lift heavy. So I had to educate people about that and how
Yeah.
you can do it.
And what were those conversations like? You're a teacher. Did you sit down and just like really break it down and give them formulas and everything?
I broke it down to a science, broke it down to a science and how it could be done, and how it's all about also the timing of how you incorporate your carbs and proteins and fats into your diet. It's all about the timing and how you um, put it together.
All right, talk to me about this timing here. How does that make a difference?
It does, because if it makes a big difference in your performance. And also you have
How so?
okay, so you have to have a routine. It has to be regularly. It has to be regularly based routine. So say for instance, I'm training like 10 o'clock in the morning, as opposed to training, say, at 7 o'clock at night. So for breakfast, if I was to train in the morning, I would have oatmeal, berries, almond butter, um, maybe some protein powder in there as well, as my breakfast. And I that would be enough right there to fuel me. Usually, I would have that. The timing, like I said, is the key. So if I'm training at 10 a.m., I would have that between 8:30 and 9 a.m. in the morning, because it needs to digest somewhat, obviously. And so it has there. You have the complete proteins, the fats, the carbs that you need. And obviously, the portions depend on your body weight, your size, and how in terms of proportioning out, um, scaling out how much of the fats, how much of the carbs, and everything. So yeah, so
You
that's yeah.
Yeah, you really do break that down to a science. You hit on protein a couple of times, and obviously that's a big one, whether you're in sports or you're not, but you're eating that plant-based diet. Some people on the outside are always wondering, well, where do you get your protein? Clearly, that has never been an issue for you.
Never been an issue at all.
All right. So let's talk about, can you walk us through a little bit more about what your diet is when you were training versus when you're a little bit more relaxed and you don't have a competition coming up? How much more leeway do you give yourself when you know you don't have that competition next week or the week after?
That's an excellent question. So if I'm competing in a competition and it's, say, 2 months, say 2 months from today, as an example, if that's the case, then I'm looking at my weight. So if I want to make sure I'm at a certain weight class, so if I'm 5 or 10, pounds over, and I have to um, strategically watch my carbs. I'm not going to. What I mean watch is, again, it's the timing of it. So, for instance, I again usually I train in the evenings, so that means I would have the same meals, but maybe I might have to reduce a little bit of the carbs for my morning and lunch, and then an hour and a half before I train. So if I'm training at 7 o'clock, so like around uh, like 5:30, I would have the most amount of carbs during that time frame. And I still have carbs throughout the day, but not as much.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay. Again,
Yeah.
you've as the science teacher, you've got this broken down to a science. I love the formula. Just a couple of more questions here. I'm curious. You do compete internationally, so how difficult is it for you to maintain this plant-based diet when you are out of the country? I remember speaking with Olympic figure skater Megan Duhamel. She's from Canada, and she actually at the last Winter Games had all of her food shipped to her before she went overseas. So how do you manage to stay plant based?
Oh, how I do that is before I go to a competition, right? I connect. For example, when I competed and I won my first Pan Am Games at Gaspé, Quebec, in Montreal, Canada. It was about 2 years ago. So I connected maybe a month or a month and a half before the competition on Facebook with all of my vegan friends from Montreal or Gaspé, Quebec. And I said to them, where is the best place to get vegan food? How can we all get, together to connect? And that's how I made my connections with people. Same thing when I went to Spain for the World Championship. I played with all the vegan people in Spain. I connected with, so if I plan to go to the World Games in Japan next year, I will connect with the people in that area in Japan. So that's how I connect and do my research. Again, research, and I make it happen.
There you go. Research again, coming from a teacher, research. It just seems to make sense. Talk to me real quick as we wrap up a little bit about the challenges of getting to these competitions. I would imagine it takes a lot of time, effort, energy, money, everything just to get over there.
Yes, definitely. Especially for the ones that are international, it's definitely everything comes out of my own pocket. Yes, for sure, and definitely need support for the World Master Games that's going to be held in Gasay, Japan, next year. So we could talk more about that, later on if you want to dive into that. But I'm definitely looking for sponsors, investors to help me support my goal. That would be my first master games. When I competed in my first Pan Am Games, I won that and defended my title the year after. Unfortunately, I couldn't go this year because the shutdown, the training was limited, so I wasn't able, unfortunately, to become a 3-time Pan Am champion in a row. That would have been my goal, but this, and so it's always next year, and next year is a bigger goal for the World Master Games. It's compatible to the Olympic Games. So
Gotcha.
definitely, I wanna get the funding to help me with my sports physicians now to help me out with that since I'm about to train back soon. Physical therapy, that's not covered in my insurance. So definitely would like to get support to help me now to help me further, so I won't be for preventative of getting injured and stuff. So yeah.
And do you have a website where people can go to read up more about you? Because you do have this rich history. I mean, you're the teacher, but you're also a raw vegan
Yeah.
chef in the New York City area. You have so much going on. So if you have a website that people can go to visit to learn more about you, I think that would be fantastic. Where can people find you?
Definitely on the Facebook. If you connect with me with my first and last name, as you see it here, broadcast, connect me with on Facebook. I'm definitely on Instagram as New York Ambassador Team Green, 63 kg, and definitely you can find me on Twitter as Raw Vegan Athlete on Twitter. You can also find me
Ramona, let me jump in. I think that we're having a little bit of difficulty hearing you right now. Your microphone is coming in and out. So could you try that one more time for us?
Oh yeah, sure, definitely. First of all, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I want to make sure we get fluid. So everyone could connect with me on Facebook as my name spelled in the broadcast. You can connect with me on Instagram as New York Ambassador Team Green, 63 kg. On Twitter as Raw Vegan Athlete. And also on LinkedIn as my first and last name. Yeah.
All right. There you go. All right, here's the deal. Next time I'm up in New York, dinner is on me. I want to pick your brain and see if you can't pump me up a little bit too. How about that?
Absolutely.
All right. Best of luck.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Go check her out. I mean, just a phenomenal story. And learn, how to get big and strong, just like Ramona. Thank you so very much. Okay, time now to open up the doctor's mailbag. Dr. Barnard, I want to bring you back onto the show as we wrap things up today. And here is a really good question, Dr. Barnard, one that comes to us from Nikki. And she writes in today, do plant-based butters have bad health effects?
Okay. Well, first of all, why would anybody have a plant-based butter? It's going way, way back 70 years or more. People invented margarine because butter was expensive, but it also was loaded with saturated fat and people wanted a healthier choice. And in more recent times, they have modified the formulations, things that are available with no animal products at all. Overall, they're better than what they replaced, no question about it. If compared with butter, a vegan butter substitute doesn't have any cholesterol in it. It won't have any estrogens in it. And as we've talked about a few times, all dairy products have estrogens that come from the cow, and you won't find that in the plant-based varieties. They are usually much lower in saturated fat, although you want to check the label. So that's all to the good. And of course, from an ethical standpoint, they don't involve cruelty. And butter, like all dairy products, involves the artificial insemination of the animals, separation from their calves, and ultimately they're all killed, usually by about age 4 for low-grade hamburgers. So it's a creepy industry. That's all gone in the vegan butter replacements. And the environmental concerns are greatly, greatly reduced. So some of them actually go further, and they don't just have the benefit of not having cholesterol and not having much saturated fat. Some of them actually do contain cholesterol-lowering properties. Benecol is probably the best known. And Benecol contains some special plant-derived compounds that do lower your cholesterol more than you'd expect just by not eating cholesterol. So that's a good thing. But one caution, I would suggest reading the label on any butter substitute that you get. Look at the saturated fat content in particular. If they made it with coconut oil, chances are it's got a fair amount of saturated fat. That's going to spell heart disease over the long run. Maybe not as bad as eating butter itself, but you want to be a lot better than butter, not just a little bit. So go for the ones that have the lowest saturated fat content. Avoid the coconut oil. I would avoid it completely. Same with palm oil, really. But I have to say, you don't need a vegan butter substitute. You don't need butter or any of any type at all. If you're buttering your bread with butter and you switch to a vegan butter substitute, that's good, but why don't you just leave it off and get a good bread and you won't miss it.
All right, that is a great tip. The fact that I'm just kind of stunned here that you said that there may be some vegan butters that have cholesterol lowering properties. Not that you need them, but they do in fact exist. That to me, that blew my mind. That is the fact of the day.
Yeah, no, it's true. And in fact, David Jenkins years ago at the University of Toronto put these to the test, and he put people on completely plant-based diets, but did it in a special way where he would emphasize plant extracts or various kinds of plant foods that would have a special cholesterol lowering effect, and they work. And so Benecol, Take Control is another one. You'll see them where they use these various extracts to lower cholesterol, and they do it.
All right. If we didn't get to your question today, we will save it and try to get you an answer on an upcoming episode. So keep on posting those in the comments section and sending them to us on social media. Dr. Barnard, appreciate your time as always, my friend.
Thank you, Chuck.
All right. All month long, here in October, we are banding together to beat breast cancer. And Dr. Barnard and I would love for you to join us in doing just that. All you need to do is head over to letsbeatbreastcancer.org and pledge to take the 4 steps that we have designed that can help you lower your risk of getting the disease that will affect 1 out of every 8 women. Pledge to follow those steps and get healthy with us. And just by doing that, you will be entered to win a great grand prize pack with all kinds of goodies in there. You see some on the screen right there. How great is that? And I also want to say along those lines, a big thank you to Hungry Planet for supporting us and the Let's Beat Breast Cancer campaign this year as well. We could not get this life-saving message out without your support. So letsbeatbreastcancer.org. Go over there, take the pledge, get registered for the prize pack, and get a free e-cookbook that is filled with cancer-fighting recipes as well. letsbeatbreastcancer.org. Coming up on the show tomorrow, it's going to be another great one. So go ahead and get your questions in as well. And Dr. Barnard, Dr. Jim Loomis, they're going to be back on Friday's episode. We will be doing our big blowout mailbag bonanza that we can only do here on the Exam Room Live. We want that mailbag filled, overflowing to the brim with your diet, nutrition, health, vegan-related questions. So keep them coming. I want to say thanks again to the Diesel One, Ramona Cadogan, who was on the show today, the vegan weightlifter and science teacher. Just a remarkable story. Good luck in the next games. I will be following you very closely. And to the crew behind the scenes that makes the magic happen, thank you guys as well for being extraordinary. And I want to thank you, my exam roomie, for tuning in as well. On behalf of Dr. Neal Barnard and everyone here at the Physicians Committee, I am the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll. Thanks again so very much for tuning in. And until tomorrow, stay safe, take a stand, and keep it plant-based.